You are
Hey,
live? Oh my gosh.
you are live. We are live, and it is Taco Tuesday and another episode of Go Fund Yourself. And today we're talking about a whole bunch of maybe not so fun stuff, and then maybe a little bit of
Yesterday
fun.
we had too much fun, not enough FUD. So today
Yeah.
is back on the FUD train.
We were way too positive yesterday.
Yeah,
It was
I'm not
unbelievable.
having that anymore.
What are we talking about? We got lots going on.
Okay, well, we're going to talk about crypto layoffs. If you are an Avalanche fan, you're probably having a bit of a bad day after their layoffs. I'm wondering what the heck is happening. So we're actually going to roll through just general fintech layoffs and crypto layoffs over the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023. There have been a few reports put out, so we can maybe bring some perspective to that. Maybe it'll be a little bit less fuddy, but still not a great topic. But then we have some good news actually about tokens, where there's a bunch of altcoin surges. People are stoked about that, I think.
I think people are probably stoked about it.
Altcoins, so maybe not so fun. And then we're going to talk about NFTs, which is always our favorite topic. But specifically, we're going to talk about NFTs on The Simpsons, as well as what's going on with Bored Ape.
That sounds good. That sounds exciting, actually. I don't know if anybody can hear in the background. I've got a screaming kid, so
No one can.
if anybody busts in, that's why. But yeah, okay, let's freaking go. We don't need to waste any more time. Oh, before, shout out to Krypton.
What are you wearing?
Krypton merch.
You didn't say
I'm a big
anything
fan.
about my Avalanche hoodie yesterday.
Oh yeah, I noticed it actually because I was thinking, damn, where's mine? I think I lost that hoodie. I can't find it anywhere. Anyways, shout out to Krypton for the merch. We are a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're on all the major venues. Like, share, subscribe. Help us get the word out. Let's freaking go. All right. We're back. Crypto layoffs. Set it up. I got lots of thoughts on this one.
Okay, well, we do have a lot of context, so I think it's just good to kind of run through all of it. It's not like crypto is the only industry that's been facing layoffs, but we have heard a lot in the news about fintech generally facing a lot of layoffs. Everyone knows that Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Shopify, all of them face layoffs almost constantly in the last couple of years. But crypto kind of like didn't see that in the same cycle. And now we've started to see it through 2022. We saw a lot of layoffs in the sex business, and now it's in DeFi too. Not ideal. So in July,
in the world's oldest profession, or you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
in
okay.
Centralized exchanges.
Yeah.
So in July, that's what the big news was that there were lots of layoffs within the centralized exchanges. So I believe that was Coinbase, Kraken, and Stripe. And they all cut, I mean, Stripe's not exactly crypto, but it's still in the fintech space. They all cut over 200 employees, sometimes up to 1,100 employees. So that was a pretty big deal. But we didn't really see that happening in DeFi. And if you actually dive into some stuff on the Defiant, you'll find that there were over 7,000 crypto jobs cut, but only 2.3 of those were DeFi in 2022. So this is like, people felt that in DeFi, because it's a bear market, we're still building. We all are already familiar with the marketplace. We all already know what's happening. And any company that was big enough in DeFi wasn't really going to experience anything.
Yeah. I think crypto is still such a relatively immature space that what we see in traditional tech and traditional finance, I think we can probably come to expect more of crypto in a few years once we mature a little bit. But I mean, if you look at the beginning of the obvious pullback, interest rates going up, the economy slowing down, we saw groups like Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, everybody was, making sweeping layoffs. X, like all these platforms were making tons of crazy layoffs, and they do it quickly. And so if you listen to any of the pundits, they always talk about, one of the best indicators for business survival during downturns is how fast are they willing to cut burn. And so we have the luxury of having some incredible venture partners who have been around for a minute. And so when the bear market was starting, we were inundated with advice and support on how to manage a professional business during a bear. Now, I wish all of us would have done it better than we have. Every year we learn, or every cycle we learn a little bit on how to manage these cycles a bit better. That being said, another reason I think that we're not seeing a ton of DeFi layoffs is many of the protocols are co-founder led. Yeah. So what's happening, and I know this to be true from a lot of protocols that we're part of, most people just aren't getting paid. So the protocol still exists and it still continues to grow, but people just aren't taking paychecks.
Well, the other component is when we think about big businesses like Meta doing layoffs, Meta isn't about to dissolve. Whereas at the beginning of the bear market, we just saw loads of projects and dApps and what have you. So they don't have layoffs. They're just gone. Very different terminology that doesn't hit the same stats, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's other complicating factors. I don't know how deep we want to get into this. I do see we're talking about, we have a few articles.
This is my favorite thing today. Go deep.
Layoffs, yeah. It's interesting because if you look at emerging tech markets, the internet in the early 2000s, where anybody that knew what was going on from a building perspective was getting paid extraordinary amounts of money in 2000. Crypto is kind of similar. There's a lot more demand than there is supply of experts, and for that reason, when everything is going bananas, you can raise money like it's a game. It's so simple to raise money. Most of these companies are flush with cash during bull markets. They raised at exorbitant valuations. The problem with that is it totally ties your hands behind your back the next round. You have to wait until better market conditions. Otherwise, you have to do a down round or recap or all these crazy things that you definitely don't want to do. So anyways, all of that to say, when a lot of these companies will pick up these really expensive employees because they have tons of cash. They're not really thinking too hard about it. These are the relative experts that are going to give us an edge. We'll develop quicker. We'll deploy quicker. Often you realize that, when there's a downturn, you take stock of your employee base and say, hey, like, are we overpaying any of these roles? And if so, those are just because you're getting paid $500,000 a year doesn't mean you're immune from layoffs. It's actually quite the opposite. In many ways, like, you better be contributing $500,000 times 10 in value to the business to be commanding that kind of income. So I've seen a lot of people, that work in the space that were laid off really have to readjust their expectations for the next role. I mean, in a perfect world, you'd rather see businesses that just pay above or slightly above industry standard, but then at least there's some proper prudent planning, hopefully there. So anyways, crypto is especially exposed to this right now because there is so few developed, like literally everything in blockchain, not everything, but almost everything is new. So, it's only been 10 years. How do you establish enough experts globally in 10 years, 12, 15 years? You don't. So there's very few experts. There's a lot of people that can still command incredible amounts of money. But again, I think this is just pretty standard. We're seeing a lot of crypto companies now that were holding on for longer than they should have. Again, my opinion, nothing against any of them. We made the same mistake. We always do. They waited too long. They waited too long to make a decision. And a lot of that was influenced because they raised a shit pile of money and they thought they had a ton of runway to survive any bear market, but this bear has been extended. And so now a lot of these companies are going, holy shit, if we don't cut burn, we are not going to be able to raise. So then we will be bankrupt. And so, I mean, it sucks. It's horrible. I mean, we made a strong commitment. I know I'm talking a lot here. We made a strong commitment to not laying anybody off during the bear if we could. Like, make sure we at the very beginning of things turning around, we said, okay, let's make sure that we're like super excited about the group we've got together. And let's make sure that no matter how shitty things get, we'll do everything we can to not have to trim our team. And we were lucky and we're able to do that. I mean, it was ugly and it was probably stressful for a lot of people. But there's real people on the other end of these layoffs. There's families and incomes and there's consequences of these decisions. And they're not taken lightly. I can tell you that it often publicly, you'll see these CEOs almost seem stoic when they comment about it. Like it's just business. But all of the ones that I know personally, this weighs heavy very, very heavily on them because you're really impacting people's lives.
Well, especially if it's amidst all of these other layoffs, there's not necessarily anywhere to go. It's a bear market. And I'm not saying there's nowhere to go to make $500,000. I just mean there's nowhere to go to make any money and put food on your table. And so, so of course they feel guilty. And with that, I just kind of want to run through some of the tech layoffs. It's not crypto explicit, but tech layoffs in 2023. So we have way exceeded 2022, but it's companies like Roblox, Nokia, Stack Overflow, Hopper, Epic Games, Meta. We already know Meta, LinkedIn, Shopify, but the sheer scale of that, right? Shopify is laying off 20% of its workforce. And that is a fact from a couple of months ago. I know that they've laid off more than that now. So they've laid off, I think, nearly 3,000 people. Nokia is looking to reduce 14,000 jobs. LinkedIn is reducing jobs, fully removing themselves from China, which is kind of wild, and then cutting 3% of their employees, which is nearly 1,000 people. So this is thousands of people that are in a bear market who have been working in tech who don't have anywhere to go necessarily. And it seems to be a fairly worldwide phenomenon, not just North America. And that's concerning too, because in the world of remote work, normally you think, well, I can find an opportunity somewhere, and like, maybe
there's not a ton. Yeah. I think, the saving, or maybe the silver lining here, is that there are a lot of companies that are looking for great people still. Like there are people hiring. So if you have skills and you've actually accomplished some stuff in the space, and you're actually, a good steward of blockchain, there will be opportunities. What complicates this for a lot of people is they get laid off. And not only do they now not have a job, but they also, all the potential jobs that are apples to apples, in their opinion, are half the pay, are offering half the pay. And so often, unfortunately, and again, I'm not immune to this either, you make bull market decisions that your bear market self sometimes wishes you hadn't. You got to cash some checks that your bull market self wrote. And that can be a little painful for a lot of people. I mean, we're all human, and we all make emotional decisions, right? Anyways, we don't. But then
combine this with FTX. So you've lost you've had a layoff where you were making $500,000, and you had a bunch of assets saved that have disappeared, and kind of now where are you at? And especially when we do see. So I was just talking about kind of TradFi and traditional tech and what that looks like. But within crypto, within the last month, we saw BlockFi, Coinbase, and Kraken also announce big layoffs. And then yesterday, Ava Labs did their big step cuts. People are upset about this because many felt that DeFi was almost immune to the layoffs. Because as we said before, those who are in DeFi are often, co-founder led. And so they have a personal connection with each of their staff members. They don't want to lay them off. They don't see them that way. They don't see them as this disposable asset. But also, most of the DeFi protocols that we thought would close have already closed. So we just kind of thought everyone else was standard, was going to make it through.
And your layer ones and your centralized exchanges, in many ways, can be seen as lagging indicators here. For a few reasons. I mean, Ava Labs revenue is a lagging indicator. Their revenue is dependent upon ecosystem activity, which has slowly ground down, bounced, and now going back up. But I mean, again, Ava Labs had a fairly sizable Series A in the last cycle, didn't quite get to raise the Series B. Mm-hmm. So they have to be smart. Ava Labs has a ton of cash. Like they're probably one of the best capitalized and best managed blockchains from a foundation perspective. I happen to know more about Avalanche than most others, but I do know that to be true. And so, again, this to me is not as much signaling that Ava Labs is in trouble, but rather just making smart, prudent decisions based on the uncertainty going forward. And I mean, we saw Polygon lay off 600 of its 1,800 employees. Like this is not the first L1 to do this. The reason that you're not seeing this type of layoff from Aptos and Sui and Eigen and Optimism Arbitrum is because they just raised extraordinary amounts of money. And so they're not concerned about it. But I mean, hiring is fast and furious in bull markets. You hire people that are maybe not 100,000% qualified, and you overpay them because that's what's available, and you're trying to grow faster than your competitor. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, those decisions aren't as forward-looking as we would hope. And now's the follow. So, I mean, Ava Labs, again, I know their team very, very well. And I know that this is something that weighed insanely heavily on leadership, of course. It's never easy. It really isn't easy. But to me, it's cyclical business. If we try to remove the emotion and the human aspect of it, which is kind of ridiculous because there's humans involved, but it does make sense from an Ava Labs perspective.
So the one no FUD that I have here is that if you are a crypto project, you now have very good selection of available employees.
Yeah, well, and that's a true story. And, you know, honestly, we've seen that we're hiring for a few roles at different places, but the level of candidate quality is substantially higher than I've seen in a while. And of those candidates, their eagerness and willingness and responsiveness and, everything is totally different. Obviously, it's the power balance has shifted where, if you're hiring, that's rare. People really are looking for that. Anyways, there are a lot of people. If you're hiring, there's a lot of great people out there. You really have your pick of the litter. And now is a pretty good time to expand because I think, at least from our experience, salary expectations are still higher than most industries, but a lot more in line, I think, with something sustainable. So all in all, positive.
Okay, let's move away from this very sad topic that impacts so many humans and go over to this really exciting topic that impacts so many humans.
Yay, Ripple!
We're having wild altcoin surges. We've got XRP, Link, Doge. Yeah, there's just a lot.
Solana went bananas a couple days ago. And I mean, this is normal. This is kind of normal bull market-esque stuff. I don't think any of us are ready to say, hey, we've rounded the bend. We're all hopeful that we have. I mean, XRP is seeing some pumpage because of their PR around the lawsuit.
Of course.
Chainlink has made some pretty incredible announcements of like real world partnerships with massive entities. And Sergey has been captured in photos, often wearing a suit and a vest and dressed in the TradFi part, which is really cool. I think Doge, again, is probably riding the Elon wave a little bit. And just the typical kind of meme wave. Solana, I have no idea why Solana pumped. It pumped like 30% in one day. No clue why that was. So yeah, this is pretty standard. People make some money. Bitcoin has been up, $4,000 over the last 10 days, more than 10%, obviously 12% or 13%, which is, I mean, for Bitcoin, pretty good. A lot of people, take some profits, reinvest them in shitcoins, meme coins. We're not.
So there's a lot of back and forth though about who's actually leading the altcoin rally. Is it Ripple or is it Link? So is it XRP or Link? And this is interesting because people are putting out various stats about the two companies and what we're seeing. And it's interesting. To me, it's just interesting to see what indicators people pick. Right?
Yeah.
It's like active wallets, TVL. I have this one that there's a surge in the number of wallets holding a minimum of 1,000 Link tokens, which what a strange stat to pull and decide that that's the indicator that you want to use. So I like seeing this going back and forth on crypto Twitter. I like seeing the communities be active and engaged, but I also am like, why? It's just Bitcoin. Just move on.
Kind of reminds me, like every cycle this happens. It's like our community is better than yours, and let's make a point of trying to show it on Twitter. I actually don't think either of them are leading the altcoin rally. I think it's Bitcoin that's leading it, to be honest. Bitcoin is the cause, is the catalyst, in my opinion. And the rest of these guys all have their own small catalysts that lead to the waterfall. But I mean, this is exciting. It's nice to see some day traders make some money, probably more lose money than are making, but there's a few guys that I know fairly well that are making money right now, which is nice for them. And hopefully they can sustain some momentum here, they being the markets.
Now you are saying that Bitcoin is the winner, but I do have to point out that Coinbase is no longer going to offer support for Bitcoin SV. So Bitcoin SV was a hard fork in November 2018.
Yeah. And effectively did nothing.
Yeah. But people still hold it.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of the people, and I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of the people just kept what they had. Like when a hard fork happens, they kept their balance
Yeah.
on both chains, right? So they just
Of
kept
course.
what they had and hoped for the best. And I think there was expectation that BSV would turn into a proper L1 with some meaningful smart contract layers built on it. But it kind of seems like no one did anything with it. And here we are.
And the hypothesis here is that Coinbase is dropping them so that they are regulatorily compliant because there's uncertainty surrounding what hard forks might look like.
Yeah, that's their excuse to make it sound like they still believe in the product, but just can't. Oh, our hands are tied.
Oh.
But yeah, water off the duck's back. But yeah, I mean, all of this, generally speaking, with the exception of delisting stuff, but I mean, all of this is good. Like this is finally we're talking about something other than lawsuits and exploits.
I know. Okay, so this next one I think is cool too. So Coinbase obviously launched Base earlier this year, and Kraken is looking to compete with them on L2s. So they are currently in talks with Polygon, Matter Labs, Nil Foundation, and probably many others to see what they can launch in terms of a layer 2. People think this is specifically to compete with Base, but I think it's just the next natural step for Kraken.
I think it's the next natural step for most incumbents of any size. I feel like I should take some responsibility for this because I think I've been saying this for like 6 months. There's no world where Kraken is going to ever be able to benefit from the stepwise compliance of Base. And the reason for that is, on what planet would Kraken send a paying revenue generating user from Kraken to Base where all the revenue accrues to the coin stock? That planet doesn't exist. That would never happen. So there's two solutions. I happen to be focused a little bit more on the solution that we're not going to talk about today. But one of the solutions is that all of these incumbents can open their own permissioned ecosystems. It's not scalable. It's not sustainable. It's not manageable over time, where Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, Huobi, KuCoin, all the others, all have their own ecosystems. We're going to be in the same situation that we're in right now without meaningful interop, but interop for regulation is not near as simple as it is right now. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see. I think, again, in my opinion, I think a better approach here would be to try to find ways to access multiple ecosystems so that you're not limited to any one set of assets or any one set of liquidity. Anyways, all of this to say, I think we're going to see more of this, whether I think long-term it makes sense or not. What doesn't make sense for sure is for them to try to, only stay as a centralized exchange. That trust has been blown out of the water, thanks FTX. Mm-hmm. And so the chances of them being able to do that are pretty slim because you lose a lot of the benefits of blockchain when you centralize. Next logical step is they're going to try to go on-chain. And I guess the question we have to ask ourselves is, does the future look like a bunch of siloed ecosystems that somehow have bridging in between and some convoluted structure? Or is there going to be some sort of macro infrastructure layer that manages all of this stuff? I personally am betting on the latter. We're building a project focused specifically on that, so I'm biased. But yeah, I mean, again, this is natural progression. I'm happy to see more movement, regardless of whether it's aligned with my theory or not. So all good.
Okay, let's wrap up on NFTs.
Ape Fest?
There's just no segue for this, but there's two stories here. One is Bored Ape had an event in Hong Kong where they showcased a lot of NFTs, including their own, and about 1% of people have complained to Bored Ape that they have actually had to go to doctors and that their eyes have been burned by the visual displays.
By the lasers. Yeah, super strange.
So wacky.
I was talking quite positive about this the other day. Just that the fact that Ape Fest is doing its thing again, hopefully we'll start to see some of the major kind of blue chip NFT projects. I'm definitely not an authority on NFTs at all, or on most things, but especially on NFTs. And I was having this conversation yesterday, like, where is the NFT culture, PFP art space going to go? Because effectively, and here's my thesis. most of the people that rushed into the space to buy NFTs bought the bags. They're holding bags. So they bought from all the people that were here before and understood the grift to pre-mint or to mint all these NFTs and then just sell them on secondary for considerable profit because they're insiders and they can buy 20, 30, 80 of them at a time. The problem is the vast majority of people that bought those NFTs from them were people between the ages of 16 and 26. And most of those people bought when Instagram was going off on NFTs. Yeah. Well, by the time Instagram was going off on NFTs, by the time you hear about something on social media and the hype is like super big on social media, it's too late. Like you're the one buying the bag. Like that's what's happening. Anyways, all of that to say, there's a ton of bag holders. There are a ton of new entrants to the space. And I suspect many of them are completely discouraged. And so what has to happen is we have to see things like this or Pudgy Penguins or other fairly well-known blue chip brands doing these IRL activation events, doing these community things to remind people maybe what some of the benefits are to holding these assets. Do I think we'll see a cycle of PFPs again? I don't. Not the same way.
I want one though. It was so fun.
I think there'll still be PFPs. I think it'll be fun. It just won't be as profitable because I think everybody, like anybody that had NFTs in this last cycle got completely hammered. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens in this next cycle. Will culture and art type projects be ignored in the next cycle? No. Like there's probably going to be some way more incredible stuff with generative AI and all this other cool shit. Who knows?
So it's funny that you say that by the time that you are on socials and you're trying to follow an NFT that you're buying the bag. I feel like by the time TV is making fun of you, you're definitely too far behind.
Yeah, you're definitely.
So The Simpsons this year for their Treehouse of Horror episode, obviously they had 3 different stories on there. But the biggest thing that has hit the news is that they made fun of their own NFT called Golden Moments. But basically what happened on the Simpsons episode is that Homer accidentally tokenized Bart and made him an NFT, and then Bart was trapped on the chain. And so Marge had to digitize herself to go save him. And it's kind of this weird mix between like the Alien movies where, she's the hero in the jumpsuit and she's got to fight all of these aliens and all of these NFTs are like bursting out of other people and what have you. So she has to save Bart. But then Homer accidentally digitizes himself too. And of course, there's a market crash because nobody wants that. But they poked fun at like every NFT collection you can think of. The other thing that I love about this is that once this came out, the artist Reno Russo launched another Simpsons-themed NFT project called Springfield Punks, and it's the most traded collection on OpenSea right now. So
people are so opportunistic. Like we talked yesterday about XAI.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
It's hilarious, and like I've got some friends that do their main gig is shitcoining. Like actually, they buy all these meme coins early. They've got a whole system. They've got bots. This whole crap set up. I think it's ridiculous. Every time I try to do it, I lose money. So it's insane. But yeah, like they are so focused on social media narratives and trends because they just launch these shit coins. People launch these no utility, no use case tokens, and they have a name representative of something that's in the news and it goes bananas. It's like it's almost laughable. Like we expect finance to take us seriously as a space, and here we are talking about this nonsense. Like it is laughable.
We're like tabloids, SPF.
Like it's so strange. Like like it's just one extreme or the other. Either we're fraudulent or we're complete lunatics, or both, maybe. I don't know.
That can be 2 things.
Anyways, that brings us to the end of the exciting news for this Taco Tuesday. But we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Like, share, subscribe, bookmark on Twitter so that we can get the word out. And with that, today I say to you, go FUD yourself, my friend.
Go FUD yourself, JD.
Bye.